So I got up. I couldn't sleep. I ate too much last night, so had a little heartburn. So I got up and I was like, all right, I'm tired. I don't want to like fully get up. I'm gonna hook me up some tea.
Hmm.
Hooking up the ginger, like grinded it in there, like just had the fresh ginger, fresh turmeric, all that stuff, right? And then I was like, I'm not gonna listen to anything, not gonna look at my phone. I'm just gonna watch this tea. And it just, I just watched it's in the morning, so it's like it's still kind of dark. I just got the stove light on, just watching that thing, watch it work to a boil, all of that, watching the steam rise off of it. And man, I was just thinking, bro, because I've been stressed about work and some of the stuff that I have to do, and just kind of caught up in this, in this game that we have to play as far as being like leaders and all of that shit. But we like to think about things from a hierarchy perspective.
Hmm.
And I feel like when you do that, you like, it's always this, you're pushing down or you're being built up by other people. And I think the more important thing is to like energize folks, right? Like
Yes.
empower them, inspire them, motivate them to do things that then, as a leader, you have to make certain decisions. You have to drive, strategic thinking, but it shouldn't be like this thing where I'm above this person or that person, but it's more I'm closer to the center of things. So just like when you throw a rock or a boulder into water, right? It just reverberates. I'm fucking that word up, but it just like you feel the impact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Reverberates through that entire, body of water. And that's that energy, right? That then other people can feel and then use as some force. It's like you know, what is it? The rising tide lifts all boats type of deal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What's starting that? What's inspiring that? What's moving that? But all that to say, man, it had me thinking too about just how something like when you make tea, right? The smell of it does something. Like it has a certain impact, calming impact on you. Then it also does something within your body when you consume it. And it's all a type of ripple effect too. Like it starts with something small. It
Yes.
starts with something that you did to like open up that ginger, that turmeric, right? And then there's like all of this positive energy that flows from it. Not energy and just some like, you know, I don't know, the different ways that
Oh,
people try to
yes.
use those terms. But it's like sincerely, like it is something that is positive that happens within your body, that happens with your senses, with certain healthy foods.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
but yeah, I don't know, man. I was feeling motivated by that and wanting to approach work and life in that way. Like, how am I inspiring and motivating others, seeing myself on the, like, we're always on the same level, right? It's a
Yes.
matter of like how much you influence people and how far your reach is, as opposed to, to how high you sit in like your perch and overseeing and orchestrating everything from afar. I don't know what to do with that, but
No,
that's
did
what I
my
hear.
no, 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 absolutely, bro. Do you think that the average, everything that you said with regards to being an inspiration and having a positive ripple effect, what's so crazy is throughout my life, brother, I don't think I've seen maybe one leader, somebody in a leadership position in a job. I've had a few jobs. I'm not talking, I won't talk about my current job. I don't necessarily have to interact with the leadership I have in my current job. I have no complaints about. But the leadership that I've had throughout my life has always been very much so lacking. It's always a person, it's always a man or a woman who has this glaring insecurity, profound kind of insecurity about them, which people call an ego. But I consider the ego, as you know, to be nothing but another word for profound, glorified insecurity. Because what is an ego? what is it to say that Kanye West has an ego? What we're saying is he's highly competent in some regards, but he's also highly insecure in other regards. That's the same way that I've seen so many different leaders. And it's just aggravated the crap out of me all throughout my life because also my peers, everybody has this sense of defeatedness to where they feel as though we can't collectively vocalize anything about it, or they're not analyzing it in the way that I'm speaking to. They're not being as precise about it. They just summarize it as this is what I'm trying to say. People give a pass to this way too much. It's way too normal. It's so normal that it's almost like, yeah, you know, John or Jane, that's how they are. They're such a hard ass and they're just so unre I like what you're saying because what you're saying is not only good just because it sounds good or because of like it's just positive energy that people are so cynical towards, but that positive energy is so necessary and real, especially when it's coming from that authentic, sincere place. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna say this. One of the biggest things I used to gripe about in our first conversations, one of the main realizations that I had that we used to talk about all the time, years and years ago, was in America how common it was for people to engage in artificial sincerity. And that artificial sincerity, that insincere sincerity, is what I feel is the antithesis of what you're speaking to. And so, is it fair to say that what you're describing is a kind of sincere effort to galvanize and to, I suppose, to produce positivity, but you just want to, your interest is the sincerity and authenticity of it all, as opposed to some kind of like performative effort?
Yeah, and that, that's the tough thing too, bro. Because in order to do that, right, you have to be sincerely committed to whatever the effort is that, y'all are collectively working towards. And if you are too often, you know, folks, including myself, like you fall into or you start to do work that you don't necessarily feel very committed to. Um, and I could say that, in terms of like working in finance and accounting, that sort of thing, like I can't be committed just to that concept, but when applying it to something, that's where I can start to see some desire, right? And desire in that sense of like having that kind of North Star, so to speak, that draws me towards like, all right, I am trying to work to this end, or I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to support the accomplishment of this particular initiative, or support this institution. But it's like you do in order to be that inspirational or motivational leader, you have to, yeah, you have to embody that. Like you have to have some commitment to the cause. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do, especially in a world that if anything, it's always persuading you to view yourself as the project that you're working on, as a self-improvement project, rather than like actually being committed to something and some cause, and just using both your inherent and developed skills in order to accomplish that goal with other people. Um, but I think that's where the sincerity comes in. Like, how committed are you to, that particular, you know, goal or cause or initiative, right? And what's pulling you in, and then from there, you would hope that you have the charisma, um, to like draw people in, so that then they can feel inspired or motivated by you. Um, but yeah, I think that also comes from some sort of sincerity. Now, you do have people who are just naturally charming and manipulative, but I mean, oftentimes that stuff wears off, and you start to, that thin veneer, wears away, and people start to see like who you truly are, But you got folks who, have a certain sincerity to them, figures like Obama, people like that who, I don't know, you can see it, as opposed to some other politicians who might be hollow, and you just can see right through them, right? You can see that what they get off on is just like people being drawn to them, but they're not actually committed to something that would inspire folks.
No, absolutely. In this morning, what was your what was your conclusion when you're watching the tea, you're looking at the tea, you're drinking the tea, I mean, but your conclusion with the ripple effect of it all, and like and oversimplify what was the final conclusion after it was
You
all
know
said and
what?
done?
I can't say that it still is just a half-baked thought. And it's
I
one of
see.
those things where I think that, other people there's probably some theory out there that somebody developed, right? That aligns with exactly what I'm framing. But um would it I think the reason that it came to me is that I was just very focused on everything around this whole making tea experience. And
Mm,
it was just like, going through the process of like getting a grater, grading it finely, right? Getting the water to the right temperature, waiting until like the steam, or the amount of vapors that I saw rising like decrease before I went to pour it into my cup. It was all about being attentive. And I think that's what it draws. That was the conclusion that I came to. Like, if I just pay attention to all of the things around me and fully appreciate them, I think I'm less inclined to be overwhelmed and more inclined to like feel energized and hopefully energize other people. In the same way that, the everything that I have around me, all of the food, all of the, resources, all of these things help to support me, and too often I overlook those things and I don't appreciate them. And that's it. Like it calls for an amount of discipline to like be alert to certain things, pay attention and appreciate them.
oh, absolutely. And I suppose that also plays a part into it that your particular default pace, your Anthony pace, your Anthony pace, is it fair to say that the everyday world is antagonistic towards it, especially I have to reference Man's Game. I have to, because what we're talking about is essentially the nature of this framework that man has created leading up till this very moment in modernity where because I can't so much criticize the past because you have shared with me videos from like the 80s, 70s, the 90s. People's temperaments were clearly less agitated, clearly more even, clearly. And so now it's more like, and so
Yeah.
it's so hard to reconcile that, and especially for your default because you're a self declared slow person, right? More or less.
Yeah, I'm slow and inclined to be hermetic.
Mm.
Like that is just like natural state. And I think for both of us, right, that's just kind of
Yes.
a default
Yes.
state. But with that comes I mean, it's naturally a slower pace.
Hmm.
Isn't because it's like like you're constantly at war with yourself, or at least I am, because I'm fighting this urge to just be so anxious and overstimulated. Like
Mm.
I don't want that, so I'm fighting against it, and not embracing it. And I think the steps that I take then are sometimes more extreme than others, because although no one wants to be anxious, the the way that the approach that people take to like calm themselves is oftentimes just more stimulation. And some of that could be good, socializing with friends and what have you. But even that, a lot of times people do it in the most unhealthy way.
No, I totally agree. It's hmm. Yeah, because it's funny because I'm susceptible to a kind of but that being said, I do still find myself constantly, literally every Sunday for the past 5, 10 years. I've complained about going into the grocery store here in Houston, which is HEB, and every time, even today, I'm just constantly aghast at the lack of patience of everybody. It's like a bazaar. It's like if you're
Yeah,
going in
yeah.
there, hey, hey, it's like it's so chaotic. Everybody's so absurdly impatient. It's like a going on a business sale up in there. It's like move out. It's like get out my way. And I can't. I'm a big. I give credit to my pattern recognition. I try to. I would love to say it's only this type of person that does it, or that it's literally everybody at any given point. It's from the old to the young to the every single shade, every single culture. Everybody's up in there. Like it's every man for himself. No communal sensibility at all. No patience. I felt completely different. The only time I experienced something that was more harmonious was when I had visited in Denver years ago, visit you in Denver, and I went to a grocery store, and I was like, "This is how it should be." People were actually what I would consider to be normal and mindful up in there. I don't know how it is now. Maybe people are cutting up now over there too, but there has definitely been a breakdown, and we don't. That's something that's not talked about at all anymore. Pace, because you even see it in our news cycles, right? We're so daggone compromise, brother. It's actually so messed up because that's why nothing sticks and nothing's important because we're just on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. There's no, what you described this morning was a kind of marination. You marinated on something that people tend to only marinate if they took a psychedelic or something. Like nobody's,
Right, right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
nobody with a clear, sober mind is looking at tea anymore, bro, or thinking about and reflecting upon the process of that. It's
And that,
sad, bro.
yeah, yeah, that's the funny thing, bro, because it's like it shouldn't be anything that's worth reflecting on, unless you're like a monk, right?
Right.
Other than that, like I don't know. I think it's because of just that overstimulation, right? It's because of the social media, all of that stuff, right? The
Mm,
news, we constantly just kind of besieged by, all these different types of information and entertainment to the point where, yeah, when you just have a simple experience of like, making tea, if you
hmm
sit there and you just slow down, you pay attention to it, it like puts you in a different state of mind. I don't know, that makes that, I don't, it just kind of amplifies whatever that experience is. And especially doing it, you know, early hours of the morning, so you don't hear anything or anyone around you.
Oh, yes.
Not
I've
even
come to,
within your household, right? But just outside either. Like you just don't hear the neighbors upstairs or people in the hallway or any of that. And I imagine people who live in a more, rural setting, may have similar experience, but maybe not because now that you do have access to YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all of these other things, everyone is having the same kind of anxious experience.
everybody is absolutely having this kind of anxious experience, 1000%. And the reason why I get a bit on my high horse and I'm annoyed at people is because we do not make this any part of the conversation. Everyone's just talking about how anxious we are, how overstimulated we are, but nobody's being critical of our framework. Nobody's being critical of our norms, our current norms. Everybody acts as if this is all our current norms are the norms. I swear it's that thing of people swear that modernity just happened. People swear that the past is not relevant or significant, brother. That's why people can be so obnoxious in these modern times with and lack humility and lack perspective because we have no reverence, no acknowledgement of the past. And when I look at the past, it's clear I am not saying that there's no kind of luxuries, there's no kind of community, there's all kinds of goodness that modernity has brought us in this current age. But something like just going back to people's temperaments and the way that they had even discussions, how the pace, every relatively speaking, human beings, Americans in the past, were had much more patience, much more of an attention span, and we all know why, but we don't want to critique it and talk about it and let that be a focal point for some time. And then it's not justifiable because I've seen what people do when they do decide they want something to be a focal point. We talk about certain celebrity gossip. Everybody and their mother's talking about it. We talk about certain political grievances. When it's a hot topic, everybody's talking about it. Certain just dramatic events that occur. Everybody's talking about it. So it's not as if we don't have this ability to talk about something like this. But yet and people on the one hand talking about I'm overstimulated, this and that. But how important is it to you though? Because then why aren't we
Hmm.
having a conversation about how unhealthy our norms are?
Right.
How,
Yeah. And
so
that's where, yeah, it's like there's this awareness of it while at the same time just like not in any way, feeling motivated to make that change. And it's almost because we're all just too cynical too smart for our own good sort of
hmm
thing.
hmm
Would even look at, somebody who's like trying to be more attentive and focus as, like you're just doing it as kind of a fad type of thing. It's almost like we're all just choosing which fad are you gonna like kind of associate yourself with or align yourself with, instead of fully appreciating like that a more attentive, disciplined, focused life is just it I think it's just more compatible just with human nature,
more
because
compatible with human nature.
contemplation, reflection, those capabilities are all things that are more unique to us than most animals, right? Like that ability to have and feel certain things in a very conscious way and to be able to reflect on yourself
Yes.
is something that, at least to our knowledge now, we are top of the heap when it comes to that.
Yes.
If not the only ones who can do it at the depth that we can. So, yeah, I think we just don't want to lean into that more. There's a fear of doing that, but it is important to do, because then it always leads you to death, and that's the thing that we're trying to avoid. That's
Mm,
where our
mm.
consciousness all it leads us down that path. But in order to fully realize this life and appreciate it, it's like you do have to reflect on it. Even last night, like, well, one of the things that woke me up was like I had a dream about, like, my grandmother was in it, and she was in two dreams that I had, like just in the same night, because I fell back asleep, and I dreamt of her again. It was almost like continuation, but
Mm.
even that, she passed away in 2019, so it's one of those things where dreaming about her and then waking up and fixing myself some tea, I think all of it just made me very attentive and focused on just like the present moment.
Mm.
Um, and even thinking about, if I were to, really delve into that dream, and just thinking about the impact that she's had on me, or just certain things that she's, said, that's probably what influenced me thinking about this ripple effect, right? But there's a lot there. There's a lot there, and that lives inside of us, but you have to be attuned to it, be attentive, and willing to engage it, even if it seems a bit, uh, I don't know, just far from reality, I guess. A little distance from just work and the drama that you experience from day to day. You know.
Yes. No, totally yes, dog. In another way, to me, what you're also speaking to me, is I guess you can say the argument can be made no matter what we're doing, we're tapping into in certain aspects of our humanity. But then the question becomes, what aspects are we tapping into, and is it for the worse or for the better? The everyday what we're doing is we're tapping into our will. It's a lot of willpower being used because we have these obligations. I got these jobs, I got this, I got that, these duties. And so many people are tapping into just sheer grit and will and only that. And as Bertrand Russell had put it in The Conquest of Happiness, and it's like it leads to an undue cultivation of the will over like all of the other more very much so powerful human characteristics of um of the human um of the human condition of being a human. I believe that like what you're speaking to is speaking to tapping into that healthier, just more contemplative, just more peaceful, more mindful dimension of our humanity. And what I resent is that how people act as if that can't be brought to work, that can't be brought to the get together, that can't be brought to people swear that it's not worth it to fight for humanity to be the best parts of our humanity, the sincerest parts of our humanity, the most authentic parts of our humanity. That is where death, for example, should be something that should be a part of our everyday normal conversation. If we really cared about this thing called existence, if we really cared about this thing called humanity, we would be talking about death as if the same way that we talk about the Love Island or whatever. Like it would be
Yeah.
important to us because you had mentioned just a few moments ago, like essentially, all roads lead to death. Basically, if we're having
Yeah.
conversations, if it's but well, what does that then do? What that then does for me to recognize death, there's a bitter, it's like some jazz music, some melancholy, the beginning of Sentimental Moods with Duke Ellington. It's like there's something bittersweet about it. There's something sad about it, but just like some tea is bitter. It has a bitterness to it, but it still does something to enliven. There's a bitterness about it, sure. But eventually, once that passes, it's just waves, it's ebbs and flows. Once that passes, there's an appreciation. There's something enlivening that occurs because it's like, okay, death is real. Death is a thing. Death is something that will come at some point, no matter what. But I'm alive. But I am
That's the
alive.
thing. I'm alive, and also it's like we speak to death indirectly anyway. It's just that we don't fully appreciate it. Like when I think about, for example, my mom and I, we text each other every day, but we always text each other good night, right?
Mm,
You could have certain rules in place with you and your significant other where y'all don't go to sleep on bad terms.
yes.
Like all of that is because there's something about that otherness that happens in the night. There's something about that, the lights going out and this may be it. Like you're speaking around it, but you're really telling somebody, if this is the last time I communicate with you, if this is the last time I see you, I love you. Good night. Same thing when you greet somebody in the morning, good morning, like because it's a new opportunity, it's a new day. I have another one in front of me.
Yes.
Or at least I'm living in another day. So it's all around us. We know it's there, but we just don't fully acknowledge it. And if we did, I think even when we say things like "I love you," it would be with there would be more sincerity in that, and it'd be a bit more intense, because we know it's there. We're afraid to just truly speak to it.
Damn if that ain't true. And the way that you put that, yeah, with the good night and everything. Yes, you're right. Yes, there's an implication in that, in the way that we treat when the lights go out. Yes, this could, in fact, be, we don't know what's
Every
coming
time,
out.
I mean, when your significant other leaves, like you say goodbye to people. I mean,
Damn,
that's the reason why. Otherwise, if you knew for a fact, I'm gonna see you in the next hour,
that's so true.
I ain't gonna say
That's,
shit. You know. I don't say anything every time I walk from one room to the next. But for some reason, when you step out of that door and you go out into that world, there's a certain danger there
yeah,
that
drive
I'm
safe.
speaking to. Yeah,
Yeah,
drive
yeah,
safe. You know. Yeah,
yes.
we
And
know
you
it's
know,
there,
no,
waiting.
you're right. So we do definitely address it indirectly often in so many different areas of our like informal, just our the way that we interact with each other. But yeah, then it goes to that. But it's kind of similar to a lot of people sort of just touch and go with God, for example. Like they'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
ah, yeah, thank you, God. It's very it's arbitrary, it's selective, it's not enough. What I'm getting at is it's not enough because what I would argue is the reason why there's such a lack in the actual spiritual depth these days because everyone just is so confident that God is on their side. They believe in God. They have this wonderful relationship with God, but it's this lip service though, and only in these moments. It's only it tends to be when just we're at the intersection, we're at the crossroads. Some problem is coming. God, please get me out of this. Boom. Okay. Anyway, moving on. It's not as deep as it should be. Similar to with death, it's not as deep as it should be. We don't go deep enough, which is why we're constantly having these shallow experiences with each other, where half the time when I see people's problems, all my life, even now, half the time when people have issues, it's a little bit laughable because it's so shallow. And it's also laughable because when you really peel back the layers, there's a deeper reason as to why it's occurring. But it's a tapestry and it's elaborate, but it can also be simple. It's it it's fascinating. It's interesting, man, because the fact that we're all going to die, we know it, yet we don't act like it. And even me, I take it for granted constantly as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's almost like you have to, right, in order to
Yeah,
some extent.
you do.
But it's like we're calibrated in a way where it's like it is just in avoidance mode, right? Like we
Yes.
can't, I mean, intensely focus on death in every moment. But it's like we do need to have a bit more respect for it. In the same way you mentioned, like, if you subscribe to, you know, some form of religion or spirituality and you claim to follow God in a particular way, like you can't dial it to the point where it's just like, like you said, every once in a while, you get through some, God, get me through this, I'm good. And then you just forget about God, right? Like you have to find some sort of balance where you can have that appreciation. You can still enjoy the world, right? You don't want to be turned off completely. You don't want to be overzealous. But yeah, when it comes to death, I feel like that's one of those things where you have to fine tune your level of attention, and do it in a way so that you can constantly move forward, but not like you brought up will. Like if I were to like come up with some imagery for it, will would be that thing where I look down the road, look down the path, and it's like I am focused on that particular point in this journey, and I'm
Hmm.
just focused keenly on that.
Yeah.
And through that, I lose a lot, I overlook a lot, I miss a lot. And that's people, that's experiences, that's everything because I'm just willing my way to this particular ambitious goal. But if I were to really focus on being attentive and having a healthier connection with death, I would realize, like, as I make my journey, I am going to make my journey. I'm going to continue to put one foot in front of the other, but I am going to notice the trees and the flowers along the roadside, right? I'm
Yes.
going to spend time with those people who I meet along that journey and fully appreciate and remember them and not just, rush by. Appreciating that as I pass through, ultimately, yeah, they are leaving me in some way, and I'm leaving them. But I at least was attentive and had some appreciation for them in that moment. And then I continued on until I don't, until the lights go out, until I either reach whatever that destination was or I don't. But it's all a matter of how you do it. But you don't want to like get too fixated on something or too afraid of like death or losing someone because then prevents you from like putting one foot in front of the other and you just kind of get stagnant and stuff. But yeah, we are just like in anxious rush mode, headed nowhere fast.
Headed nowhere fast. Brother, yes.